Councilman Rojas.
Yes, sir.
Number 4 for you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a model 600.
Yeah, and we're gonna have one over at the school on September 22.
Right at the
So it'll be
bottom.
kind of good to see
Okay,
what we're doing, and then we can relay it, you know, a little bit.
Ready? Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Are we awake? I guess not. Okay, study session, Mayor and City Council meeting, 4 p.m. Tuesday, September 10th, 2019, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Number 3, presentation.
No, this
Yeah, number 1, presentation regarding the census 2020. Miss, you're going to be doing it for us. Will you please go to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, please?
Good afternoon, Saida Bustamante with
Good
the
afternoon,
Census.
Saida.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am focused on Santa Cruz County. I did have La Paz and Yuma counties, but fortunately they did hire somebody for those areas. So I'm focused in Santa Cruz County, and I also am helping the efforts for Cochise, Greenlee, and Graham counties with the census. And if you're ready, I'm ready as well.
Yes, go ahead.
Ready? Alrighty, so as we know, the census is fast approaching and it's vital to our communities. What the census does is we count everybody in the nation and we do it for a purpose, alright? We do it because, okay, well, it's in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, and it's also in the passing of the 14th Amendment. It's about fair representation, and it's about the $675 billion that need to be distributed throughout the nation, our states, our counties, and communities. And it's also about redistricting, which is very important, and it's our civic duty. This is very important, and I'm sure most of us know that the census data is used for funding a lot of vital programs. Arizona receives over $13 billion for federal assistance programs per year, and it is said that per capita we receive $1,979. The census data helps programs such as Head Start, lunch programs, a lot of programs that we use in rural communities such as ours. Title I grants, the ones that we receive for our schools, vocational rehabilitation, and it's used also to repair roads for our fire departments. Important dates to know about the census, and we have a little bookmark that shows important dates. Currently, right now, we're doing address canvassing, and I'm sorry for where it says in-office address canvass 44. Sorry about that. I just noticed that. But right now what we're currently doing is there are census staff around Santa Cruz County verifying addresses and verifying if there are other structures behind households. We know just like in California there are they call them the renters, renteros, that also live either on the garage or there's another structure. That's what we're looking for as well. And just to make sure that our address list is complete and accurate. And also in October, we will be opening our area census office in Tucson. And this is the office where all of the field operations are collected and then disseminated. Alrighty? Any questions about these dates? Next. So like I said, right now we're address canvassing. And a very important date, and I know this is not until February, but we have our group quarters. What our group quarters is, and it also has transitory location enumeration. These are where we're going to count people that live in health centers, facility centers, college students, people that live in shelters, homeless shelters, soup kitchens, and also people who are homeless. How we count the people who are homeless, we know they don't have an address, so we use an enumeration process. We'll just say this person lives at this park between these cross streets, and there are about 6 or 7 people that live there and their names.
Are you going, excuse me, you going to count people that are incarcerated?
Yes, and that is part of group quarters.
Okay.
Yes. So, and anybody that live in a group facility, they'll be counted as
Okay.
well. Yes. So, and what I forgot to mention is that everybody must be counted. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. If you're from Jupiter, Mars, Asia, it doesn't matter. You need to be counted. If you're using our resources, you must be counted. So starting March 12th, and this is a cool thing about this census, and it can also be a challenge, is that we're going to be starting to send postcards to household addresses. And these postcards are going to be an invitation for people to respond online, all right? They will have an ID code that's tied in to your household. And you can put as many people that live there. We know it's something that's pretty neat, but it's also a challenge because we know that a lot of us either don't have computers, don't have internet, or there's not good internet around. So that's why we've talked about this, getting help from volunteers. That's why we need to know people to know that the census is coming, and to get organizations to help us fulfill the self-response. So we're going to be seeing postcards in our mail from March through April 27th. April 27th, we're going to get a final reminder to respond online. If we don't do that, then we're going to have somebody at our door knocking to help us fill out that questionnaire. In order to get a complete and accurate count, we have what's called the Community Engagement and Partnership Program. From the census staff, we have partnership specialists like me from each state. We have tribal specialists. We have regional data dissemination, support local efforts. We also have our media specialist. And through our local community, we're looking for trusted voices to form county, local, tribal, and complete count committees. We can't do this without the help of our community leaders, of our trusted voices, to get a complete and accurate count. I can't just go into an organization and say, hey, let's do a complete and accurate count, because they don't know me, they don't know who I am. Instead, they need somebody who they trust, somebody who they know that can say, hey, you need to do the census, this is why it's important, and it's safe. And that's an issue that we have right now, that people don't trust the census because of confidentiality, because of they fear that their information is going to be passed down to other enforcement agencies. And as I stated, our goals and our challenges. Our goal, first of all, is to educate the communities of the importance of the census. It's very important, especially for our community, to know the programs that are funded. We have SNAP, we have Head Start, and I think this is how, in my past presentations with WIG and Head Start, that's what the parents see important. They know it's important, but once I say these programs are affected, that's when they're like, oh, okay, I have to answer, because it's going to impact me, it's going to impact my child for the next 10 years. Motivate people to respond, doing it online. We're trying to get as much self-respond as we can. And the reason why we're doing this is because, unfortunately, for Nogales, we have about a 30 to 31 low self-response score. So what that means is that's the percentage that they foresee through the area census survey, area community survey, sorry. That's the percentage that they foresee that we're not going to be responding to our census, all right? And like I said, per capita, $1,900 that we would be missing out. So motivating people to respond to their census and assuring respondents that the information is safe and secure. We are protected by Title 13 and Title 44 of the U.S. Constitution. Title 13 says that our information cannot be shared through any law enforcement, housing authorities. The information that we get is for statistics purposes only. And then Title 44 says that our information cannot be released until 72 years. And what we're trying to do is complete an accurate count, complete count committee, and for Santa Cruz County, we're trying to get one for the city of Nogales and Santa Cruz County. And I know it's already in the works. We've talked about it with the city and with Santa Cruz County. But what it is build committees with trusted voices that can help us reach those hard to count populations. And our hard to count populations here in Nogales and Santa Cruz County are children. Okay. Last decennial census, about 1 million children did not get counted, only because parents didn't think they were important. They didn't need to be counted. But it's crucial because a lot of our funding, our programs are for children. A lot of the programs that are funding are for children. So children, non-English speaking population. Undocumented immigrants. So children, youth, elders, and just and our undocumented immigrants. That's why we need people within those organizations to help us in the complete count committee and to help us self-respond. When do we need to form this complete count committee? This complete count committee, and I know there's been changes throughout the census, specifically here in Santa Cruz County, but the sooner we build this committee or working group, the better, because we need to start mobilizing the censuses in several months.
How big of a committee are you looking for?
So that would be completely up to the working group. But we do need to have people who are in the sectors of business, faith-based, community-based organizations, government, media, education, higher education, just so they can reach out to those hard to count. So it could be from 5 to 15. We've seen up to 50 in Cochise County. And we need people who can outreach, like I said, to the hard to count populations. People who can bring resources to the table. People who can approve initiatives, and people who are trusted in the community. Somebody who can go and speak about the census, and people will believe what they're hearing. Once the complete count is formed, the partnership specialist, I don't tell you guys what to do or anything. I'm just a resource for the complete count committee. That's it. I do provide all of the resources, all of the updates that are happening. One way that we can determine our hard to count populations and our strategies is by using the response outreach area mapper. This is an application through the American Community Survey, and this is what I was saying about the 30 to 31% low response. It is separated through tracts. So this one it shows census tract and 9,663. There's about 4,626 people that live in that tract, and it shows us, for example, so children under 18 living under poverty. So that would be 31%. So that is okay. So how do we outreach to these individuals, to these children? That is used to build on strategies, and it shows. So anything blue, which is a lot of Nogales, are low response scores. So this is what we anticipate the response to be. So we do have, yes, sir.
Just a question. When you keep saying rural response, you're talking about when you mail out
Yes.
what you get back?
So just responding at all.
So 30% roughly don't respond at all.
Correct.
But then you send people to check where those addresses are.
And yes, and unfortunately some of them don't respond, don't open their doors.
But I mean, like if you're checking with an apartment complex and they don't respond, obviously they go to the manager to find out who's living in those. I'm sure they have records as to who's going to be living in those apartments.
Yes, but we don't do that. The census doesn't,
Well-
we won't go to a apartment complex and ask for documentation as to who lives there. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
Well, is that by law or is that?
By law, yes. And that's why we send all of these, we send about 6 postcards. We do send 6 postcards. I mean, we can, it's like if I come here and I ask you, can I get a record of everybody that lives here? Of everybody that works
So
here.
what happens if you know there's people living in that apartment and they won't answer? Do you just estimate or you just
So
say nobody lives there?
That is an option. So let's say that somebody didn't respond to apartment 203. The person in 202 can then say, I think there's about 2 people that live there. That's how we can get a response.
But you can't ask the management.
But they won't, I mean, they can tell us, but it's not something that we do. And either per
But
their
when you say they
privacy-
can tell you what they call you over and tell you there's X people living there, or they won't
So
show
for
you the
example,
records, or they'll tell you.
They
But
can't, I mean, per their policies, they're not supposed to show us. They're not supposed to tell us who lives there or anything like that. But if I can ask somebody, do you know fairly how many people live here, or has this been abandoned? They can tell me, I think about 2 people live there, or there haven't been people living there for the past year or 2 years. Yes. Yes, sir.
How have you guys come up with anything to deal when you talk about the trust factor and how people view the trust factor and the citizenship question?
So fortunately, the citizenship question is not on the questionnaire.
But the damage was done.
Yes, it was, and as I said, we do need those, it comes up a lot. It does come up a lot. And I can't, for me, my experience coming from, as a worker of the federal government and telling people it's completely confidential, you're protected, it's hard for them to believe, all right? So that's why we're looking for trusted voices who can help us tell people that it is safe. And it is safe, it's secure, it's under Title 13, like I said, and Title 44 of the U.S. Constitution, so.
When you go to a home, do you ask for the number of people living there, or and you don't ask for the names?
The names will be on the survey. You do have to put the name of the people that live there, their date of birth, but other than that, we don't ask any social security information. We do ask for a phone number just in case if we find a mistake on the survey. If something doesn't seem legible, we call the individual to just give us a clarification.
So when you send it out, it just says occupant and an address, or does it have an actual name?
It says name 1, name person of the first person.
No, but I mean on the actual when you mail it out, what does it say on it? Just says occupant of 13 something or other?
We
Or
don't
resident?
Resident of. We don't have an actual copy.
You don't
image.
put a name. You don't put a name to it.
So I don't want to say yes or no because I haven't seen that yet. The only thing that we've seen is the sample questionnaire, and I can show you guys the sample questionnaire. But I don't want to say yes and name will be on the address because we haven't released that image of the postcard.
We basically need to address it.
Yes, I think it's going to be to the resident of the household.
Of
But-
address.
Yes, but the thing is, it does have an ID on the postcard that ties you into that address.
Actual
So that is a good question. I do want to ask if the name will be on the postcard, but it hasn't been released yet. But once it is released, I can send it. Right, so that is Rome. And in order to focus on the outreach strategies, We do have what's called the Community Outreach Toolkit, and it is under the census.gov page. And it helps you determine what strategies you're going to use. It gives you census material that you can use to outreach. And here is the sample questionnaire. So it'll ask you how many people live or are staying with you in this house, apartment, or mobile home on the date. And then, are there any additional people staying here on April 1st? It asks you about the structure of the house, if it's an apartment, mobile home, your telephone number, and then it asks you about the people that live there. Person 1, person 2.
Let me see the races. Do they have Hispanic there? Armenian? Is there Armenian there? Where's Hispanic?
Hispanic should be in here. No, it is.
It's down there,
It's
on the bottom.
Is person Hispanic?
It's on the
Latino?
bottom. Bottom of the, yes.
Chamorro.
Another Hispanic,
I thought it was
Latino, or
chamorro.
Spanish origin.
Chamorro is from Guam.
Chamorro, what is
I used to
chamorro?
live in Guam.
Wow.
It's the natives.
Let me read that. It says no.
Yeah,
Yes, Mexico. Okay, I see. Yes. You would answer yes, snowflake.
So, Mr. Hanesian cannot be counted.
No, he's Armenian.
I know.
Yes, yes. You
We'll
can
just
be
write
counted.
it in.
You can be counted. You and Marcy count for 2.
We'll just go with other.
Some other race.
As other.
Is that it? That's all question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Also,
And it's the same questions for
Person 2.
person 2, person 3, and then,
Said, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is the controlling, to make sure you're not double counted, is the controlling your address, or is it the specific number that you get on the postcard? What controls, because all the information is eventually inputted, right?
right.
So how, do you know how it's controlled so it's not inputted twice?
Yes, so we do have control quality groups that go out after each field operation, all right? Just to make sure that nothing is a duplication.
Right, but so I can follow you a little bit on this. The field operation is when you actually send people out to do counting, right? But you are also asking people to do it by themselves without the field operation online. So
Right.
you would get this postcard or something and asking you to go online and do it.
Right.
So let's assume that I'm at my house, right, and I get the postcard and I go online. Does that mean somehow or another somebody's not going to show up at my door to do the count because I've already done it?
So they shouldn't show up at your house.
Uh-huh.
Now, the thing
But if they do,
so if
right.
they do, and here's the thing, there might be a possibility that they do show up.
Uh-huh.
Only because the last day that we're going to be sending these reminder postcards are going to be in April. So let's say that you submitted your self-response the last day, all right?
right,
That in a week or so, somebody can come into your door and knock on your door, and you could just let them know, you know what, I already did the self-response. Now, in headquarters, where there's going to be the data collection, they will see duplications, and if they do see duplication, that's
They
when
will
they
see that.
yes, that's when they can call you and ask you, hey, do you live at this address? Did you complete it online, or did you send
right.
the questionnaire through the mail?
So the reason why I asked you this side is because I'm trying to forward think on how maybe we could partner to help out your committee to get this done. And we send out approximately 5,000 utility bills every month to 5,000 residents. I think it's 5 for residential. And we know that our population, we think our population is about 23,000, so that puts it about four persons per household. But what I'm thinking is that a large majority of them actually come to City Hall to pay their bill.
Yes.
And we can anticipate that the ones that are coming to City Hall to pay their bill aren't the internet
Right.
type people, because if not, they would just pay their bill on their phone or at home, right? It's a lot easier. So I'm thinking maybe we could put a kiosk to ask our people as soon as they pay their bill if they can go in and just, we could help them fill out the census and then get a better count. But then I didn't want it to possibly hurt what you guys were.
No, and
doing.
that's actually great that you mentioned that, because we had already talked about that.
Right, and then my other question is, are you doing the same presentation or working with a county to do this?
No, I mean,
Santa Cruz County.
yes, so I'm not doing the same presentation. So what the county did is they did hire Roxanne Lopez
Correct.
to focus on outreach efforts as well.
So as I was speaking with the county manager on her hiring somebody to do this, because the city hasn't, we were also thinking maybe it might be a good thing to partner with Santa Cruz County and share costs with our outreach person or Roxana, and do a combination so she could possibly coordinate both in the county and the city and reduce potential costs.
That would be a great idea. It would be completely up to you guys.
I appreciate that.
That'd be a great idea.
There's nothing illegal like at the senior center where that we help somebody there.
No.
There's nothing like somebody voting or anything like that. There's nothing illegal.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Hey, is there a census tract for Nogales, the city of Nogales?
Yes.
Can I see the census tract for the
Of
city of Nogales?
Just as a question you're looking for, what happens if somebody doesn't want to put down their name? I mean, they'll fill in the rest. When they send it back, it has to have a name?
It does, because it would be inaccurate information. We can't use that information.
What about, like you said, the homeless and all that, it's just a Joe Blow, and you give them a number. How do you trace those people?
So with them, it'll be a different operation. They are transitory enumeration. So with them, we understand that they don't have an address. We understand that they might not have a phone number. So that's why this will be an operation that takes 3 days. And if they do have a phone number, great. If they don't, we'll take the information. And the census worker is partnered with 2 supervisors in the field, just to make sure we're not getting
Invented
random.
names.
Exactly. Yes.
Are there incentives,
Incentives.
giveaway incentives, anything like that you're aware of?
No.
No?
Like giveaways, marketing
Whatever.
material. The incentive is that we're going to be getting funding if we get a complete and accurate account.
I got you. I just needed to ask a question. If there's any giveaway, fill this out and
Yeah.
you
I mean
get 10% off on a pizza or something
And
like that.
you know what, that
I think that we're gonna have some little trinkets and some incentives.
So
to give away
potential-
at county fairs or at different places, but they don't have the website set up yet to go in and order the price and do all that.
Okay.
So I think that we'll get a little recycle bag or, I don't know, something for, because, you fill out your form, thank you very much.
Okay.
But we haven't gotten there yet, bring that.
Yeah, so those are incentives that the county has thought about, but I do get what you're saying. So let's say, oh, you'll get 10% off of Tito's Pizzeria if you.
Which one?
Is it Tito's? Tito's or Gariolas, Denny's. We personally, our marketing department doesn't have those incentives.
It's not provided.
Right.
Thank you.
This is for the common good.
So this is the Rome application that I was telling you guys about. established through the Complete Count Committee on how you want to outreach to either the people who don't have a computer, and I know the county has offered the 1904 building, Arizona at Work, for individuals to use the computers and have volunteers to help them with their stuff.
Well, we're the library, the city library, I'm sure we're in Quebec or.
Right. And Mayor Garino had said that we could use it for that as well.
You can also use the community college. We have 3 classrooms of computers there. You just gotta make sure that students aren't using it, but you can work around it so people can come in there to do that.
All right, so this is Nogales. Nogales, so these are Nogales, and this big one right here. But these are the tracks that we have.
So ours was a little bit lower, our response was lower than Santa Cruz County? That's Santa Cruz County.
Yeah, so this is Nogales, and then we have Rio Rico, Patagonia, these are,
Yeah, but I wanna see the
These are
results of Nogales. What was our response score for Nogales?
so for this track, so we have about 5 tracks in Nogales. For this specific track where there is 952 people, 31%.
Only 31% responded?
That
No,
track,
track.
that track's out of the city also.
Yeah,
And
and
it
that
goes all
track,
the way to
only,
Ruby.
only 31 responded.
But it's not in the city. Yes, that's correct for that track.
And then this one, 4,596. Response rate 30.9.
Jesus,
This one over here, 4,626, 30%.
These are 10 years ago, right?
No, but the point of looking at this, then what they're saying and what the base of funding for us at a population of 22,000 is not accurate.
Right.
Now that we're looking at this, we know that the last 10 years, we have not been funded financially appropriately because our count is way down. We should have analyzed this. Those that were on the city council then, they should have
yeah,
analyzed it.
but this
then
is
for that.
just what's not returned when you send it out.
Right, and
Then
this,
they send people out to
No,
see.
this one's the final one for the last 10 years.
no,
No.
and this is actually from 2013, 2017, from the American Community Survey. So the
So where am I
census,
gonna see the census, the response to the 10 years ago census?
so that one we don't have here.
Oh, no.
This one, yes. So so the census, besides the decennial census survey, there's 100 more surveys, all right? And these, we go out door to door, we send out questionnaires. That's why we use the estimates from the American survey to get these estimates.
But is the funding based on these estimates right here?
The funding, not on these estimates, no.
The funding
Its
is based on the
the
census?
decennial census.
Okay, so
Yes.
this survey between 13 and 17 is maybe an update or so, but it doesn't erase the census data.
Correct, correct. But this is just for us to get an idea of,
Okay.
of
But
the
still, our
response rate.
population 10 years ago was 22,000 and we had declined from the previous 10 years. So now I can understand better because even with your 13 to 17 responses, you were still getting a low response.
Yes.
And all the tracks.
Yes.
There's nobody there, none of the tracks have a response rate of 50% or more.
This is below.
That's even worse. Okay. That's why it's important for us for funding.
Yes, thank you. And finally, I know this was a very boring presentation, but very important. We're advocating for jobs. The census is hiring still. The jobs do last about 3-4 weeks, and it just depends on the field operations. And If you know family members, friends, neighbors who wish to apply, that is the website, the 2020census.gov/jobs. Any further questions?
Pay better than city council.
Well, anyway, you already have a very good idea, because obviously they've already checked, let's say, like the water bills, and so they have an idea of what the population is in Nogales or any community.
Don't have the address.
Because you're saying it's 31% of something that you've already come up with responded. So you already know there's, let's say, you said there's 4,000 some odd people here, only 31% or 30% responded. So you already know, pretty much have an idea how many people are really there.
Right.
Right.
So that percent is people who are not gonna be responding.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So that percent is the people that we estimate that will not be responding to the census.
Okay, but that doesn't mean the people that didn't respond are not gonna be counted.
No,
One way or another, you will figure out what those people are, unless really we have a lot of people that are really hiding away,
Yes.
right?
And that's why it's important for even for law enforcement, even though we don't want to get law enforcement, in the census, but you guys know where the homeless people are. That's the approach that we're trying to get within law enforcement. So we want to count every single person.
Saida, how many people are you looking to hire for the 3 months? Do you have a count, more or less?
I don't have a count. Actually, I might have a count. If you guys don't mind me getting it very fast. Yeah, we're trying to hire people for these counts.
Thank you for my second job.
You know what? I don't have it.
Was it 3 months or 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
It just depends on the field operation. Yeah. So, but we're trying to hire as many as we can from Santa Cruz County.
Is there a time period there though too, that the city can run its own census if we're not in agreement with your results?
You know what, that's a good question. So like an appeal?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good question. That's something that I would have to, I mean, it's a funny question, but I understand, if you guys would want to do that, that would be perfect. I don't know if there is an appeal process. Probably.
I have just read that some cities that weren't in agreement with the census, so they had an opportunity to do their own census and submit that.
There we go.
The methodology would have to be approved by, obviously, you guys, but we could do our own census.
That's something I can find out.
Please.
Definitely. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2, presentation firefighters health safety. Chief.
Okay, so Jeff Sargent, Fire Chief Nogales. You need an address or? Okay. 'Cause I know you said you needed an address for the first one, so, okay.
We know where you're at. We need one for the census.
Basically, there's a million health and safety topics. The one for today we're going to talk about specifically is cancer, but the first couple slides talk about just health and safety in general. This is a really super long, in-depth conversation which we can't get to in the time frame that we have. So in the document included is all the links if you want to go down the cancer rabbit hole with me. Everything in there is got web things that you can read on it, but I'll kind of be brief and explain as much as I can. So basically, what are our target objectives for the health and safety? And it's to basically minimize risk and still maintain the level of service that the public expects. And when I say reasonably minimize risk, it's really simple. From a cancer perspective, from fires, we just don't go in fires anymore, then they may not get cancer. But that's not reasonable because the public has an expectation that we're going to perform, firefighting operations and rescues. So how do we, as a city, make sure that we give the people the tools, training, and leadership so that the people can survive their career, and at the end have a quality of life that's called health-related quality of life. It's kind of a new concept. We're not talking about making sure you have a 4-bedroom house, 3.5 children, and infinite retirement. Essentially, what we're talking about is making sure that when you're done, you can walk, hear, lift your grandkids, and enjoy the remainder of your life. So we're trying to make sure that people get out of fire service intact as possible, which sometimes can be a challenge. So that's the health-related quality of life issue there. So none of this is rocket science. A lot of this has been created by other people. There's a lot of people working on health and safety issues. These are 16 different things that, as we move together in this relationship of fire chief and city council, we'll talk about multiple of these different things. But these are the initiatives that we need to look at when we're trying to make change. So cultural change, like when we start talking about cancer, there's a huge cultural change that happened, where people actually started wearing their SCBAs. If you go back to the 50s, you would see pictures of firefighters with their breathing apparatus hanging off, still fighting a fire instead of having it on their face. Now, that's a complete no-no, and the culture is changed so where that's not acceptable anymore. But these are all the different points that the National Fallen Firefighters Association, a guy named Dennis Compton, who used to be the assistant chief of Phoenix, then the chief of Mesa, and now he's getting ready to retire from this role, but his group put together these things. And as we talk later through different scenarios, you'll see us referencing these 16 different criteria, basically. So I'm not going to go read, I don't really want to read them to you, but they're all there. Like I said, they're in the thing if you'd like to go down that rabbit hole. So what are our areas of concern right now? And so I like graphics. So these are the main things right now that are big for fire service in general. Suicide. The suicide rate's high. It's going up. Falls. Just recently we had somebody in Los Angeles fall off of a ladder during training and pass away. Physical fitness, cancer, post-traumatic stress, sudden cardiac arrest. People are dying on shift and in training. Exposures, fatigue, depression. There's a whole bunch of stuff that affects firefighters in general, and regular people too, but specific to this job, there's ways that we can minimize this. And like I said, this probably won't be the first study session where we talk about these safety things, because there's a lot of stuff that I think it's my responsibility is to educate you guys on, so you know what happens down the hill. Because just in the last month or so, it's kind of I just want to make sure we're educating you about what we do, and so you know what we're doing down there. So the subject for today is cancer. Cancer's super scary. If you've had it, if you've ever been sitting there with a doctor who's told you, hey, you have cancer, it's not a really great conversation. One of the challenges with the firefighters in general is that the rate on a lot of cancers is higher than normal. And we'll talk specifically is about testicular cancer today, and it's the only reason why I'm picking that one is because it really points out some of the oddities with some of the studies, because that disease is specific to males only, obviously. It has a higher rate in white males as opposed to minorities, and historically in a lot of these places where some of these studies have been done, it's been a predominantly white male population. So in that one, a higher rate could mean that it's just a normal cancer rate, but it's been included in some of the presumptive things. And so one of the reasons why we're talking about this is, besides what we need to do as a department to make sure people are safe, is to give you the information and kind of get you thinking about what you're going to do when you're faced with having to decide whether you're going to, just like Glendale has been doing and Goodyear's been doing, over the last couple weeks, either approving or denying claims for workers' comp for cancer. Because I can tell you that the headlines that I put up in this document are the tame ones. They're the ones that aren't as inflammatory as some of the other ones floating around, and we need to be prepared as a city. Like, I'm supposed to protect the firefighters, but I'm also here to help protect the city as well. I want you guys to be informed about that. So, headline, how do I live? Glendale denies claim for firefighter who has cancer. Guy's been on the department a really, really long time, has a chronic cancer thing, is going to require treatment for the rest of his life. His claim got denied for workers' comp. Goodyear firefighter and his cancer. Unfortunately, Austin Peck is his name, passed away last weekend, 2 weekends ago. He is the nephew of the Scottsdale fire chief. And so these aren't just names, these are like legitimate people that, you know, I actually know the Scottsdale fire chief. So for my time in the field in Glendale. So, I mean, these are real stuff. Tobacco is another thing. A Tucson firefighter passed away from that. Basically, you start to see, you know, they start talking about the laws, the presumptive cancer laws. You start talking about the Center for Disease Control and what they're doing and requiring people to start filling out a national registry. You've got, you know, even Tucson Fire is working to help with the U of A do some cancer studies. So these are all over the place. Mesa firefighter dies of cancer. That was a female with breast cancer. And then, you know, this is just one of about 4 cancer cases in Phoenix. Luckily, Arizona doesn't have some of the issues that other places have. Like Miami-Dade County has a specifically higher cancer rate than other places. There's a place in Seattle that one of their stations has a higher than normal cancer rate as well. And if you go back to that Goodyear case, although they were 2 separate forms of cancer, it was 2 people who served together on the same ladder for a long time, both developed cancer at the same time. So you start looking at some of this as like, you know, people in general get cancer and people make decisions and do things off work too, but some of this starts looking like a trend. And so they started doing a bunch of research. This is the main piece of research that almost everything else comes off of. So everything else is kind of a derivative of this. It's a study basically from Chicago, San Francisco, and Philadelphia from 1950 to 09. NIOSH, which is occupational health and safety thing for the nation, basically worked with them too on creating stats. Basically, what it did is looked at everybody who went from 1950 to 09, looked at the number of calls they ran the best they could, number of hours spent in fires the best they could, and developed some statistics based on that. There are limitations because in the 50s, like I said, diversity wasn't the thing in fire departments, and so there were very few women and minorities in there. There has not been a push to keep really great documentation about exposures for chemicals on fires. And there is nothing, the last line in there is there's nothing to know what those people did before they became firefighters, you know? I mean, look at me, I did body work as a kid without a respirator on cars, and so if I end up, well, I already did, I got cancer at one point, but you know, that could be specifically from that as opposed to work related. So I think the key is that study was really good at pointing out, hey, there's a really big trend, but now everybody's kind of digging into further of like what is causing the cancer in general. So yeah, firefighters basically have higher rates than normal on certain cancers. Basically, they're all around the digestive tract, oral, respiratory, urinary, and reproductive tracts. So later we'll see a picture about this that kind of explains why. And then you got mesothelioma, which is exposure to asbestos. And that was, you know, could be from prior to people actually wearing their SCBAs all the time. So, more stuff. Again, like there's a ton of data on this. here is testicular cancer, 2.2 times the risk. Lung cancer from asbestos, 2 times the risk. So when you say 2.2 times, this is where we're going to talk about testicular cancer. 1 in 270 males will develop testicular cancer. So that means 2.02 of 270 firefighters will develop testicular cancer. Okay, doesn't seem like a lot, but unless you're that one person. And I think the key to that is like I said earlier, it's primarily more prevalent in white males, and so that one's hard to tell. Is it specific to actual firefighting, or is it just because the population is more predominantly male? And so those are the kind of research things that are being done to determine, you know, there's obviously trends up here that they found, but now they're trying to dig further in to figure out what the trends look like and what's causing them. So there's other supporting studies. So basically Massachusetts, Florida, another one in Florida, and there was one where they took in 27 states. All the details are down there on the CDC if you want to read those. But they all basically say the same thing. Firefighting is dangerous and you end up with a higher chance of getting cancer. Some of them have a little bit different forms of cancer that you end up with. But that could be to what burns in your area. You know, no one's really done that research to figure out why. In some areas, the cancer is a little bit different. It is not just the U.S. thing. There's also international studies too. Basically, you know, you've got one from Germany, which references one from New Zealand, which there's another one from Nordic states that basically say the same thing. Exposure to the daily tasks of the firefighter lead to a higher tendency of cancer. So, from there, we're going to watch this quick video, and basically, so what are the causes? This is a video of a house fire, or 2 house fires, theoretically, in process. This is one of the suspected causes. You look at the left side, it's natural fibers. You look at the right side, it's synthetic fibers. So, you know, your furnitures from the 50s was made of wood, cotton, and my grandma's couch felt like burlap when you sat on it, but it was a natural fiber. Nowadays, it's made of plastic and a bunch of other crazy materials or particle board with a lot of glue in it. And so you can see on the left-hand side, natural fiber is burning. You don't see a whole lot of smoke. Right-hand side, the room's filling up with smoke real quick. This is sped up. So 4 minutes into the fire, we almost have no visibility in the synthetic room. You see the black smoke starting to pour out of the building. So 30 years ago, a firefighter would have walked into the building on the left, been able to see extinguish the fire and not be doused in the chemical smoke. On the right side, you know, now 6 minutes in, you can't see, and you are literally covered in smoke created for burning plastics and other chemicals. So this is a really, like I said, just a short video. So they're going to ventilate it here in a second. You see the visibility coming back up. Let's go down here. We're going to skip forward because, like I said, it's a short video, but so basically you're 28 minutes in and you still have visibility in that room. So a lot of what people are suspecting is it's the chemicals that are burning now. They're burning hotter, they're burning different than they did a long time ago. Where someone might have gotten lung cancer in the past from not wearing an SCBA, now they're getting cancer from the wearing an SCBA, but from the chemical exposure. So let's go on to the next slide. So this was a test conducted by the IFF. It's a aerosol test. The picture on the left is a firefighter standing on something surrounded by particulates. The picture on the right is that firefighter photographed before and after. So the fully turned out SCBA wearing all his protective gear on the left goes in, and then he shows up with all those hot spots of where the fluorescent stuff made it through the SCBA, or through his turnouts. So essentially the neck where the hood attaches, right down the center of the torso where the coat closes up, and in the pants area around the waist, and then also they do have some where it's come up through the bottom of the legs. So, and that's where the chemicals are getting inside the turnouts. So, essentially the prevention stuff that we should be working on is making sure that everybody stays in their turnouts after the fire, and then we do, for the whole length of time they're on air until we clean them off. Providing them multiple hoods. The hood is the part that, like you saw where that person's neck was, that goes over their head to protect them from heat and chemicals, providing a second hood. Then essentially it's making sure that we clean the apparatus and that the apparatus is cleanable. So one of the things we'll talk about is the clean cab concept. Right now, if you go down and look at most of our trucks, the SCBAs are stored inside the seats where the people ride around inside the truck all day long, because that was the way to do it before. And so before, when people weren't washing them, you would come out of the fire, you looked really cool, dirty, and so a lot of people didn't get cleaned up because that was the culture back then. You throw the SCBA in the truck, you hop back in, you're out around the rest of the day. Middle of the night, you go out on a call wearing your turnout pants because it's easier to put those on than your regular pants, and you're walking around with the carcinogen smoke stuff still embedded in your clothes. And so, item 3 there is washing the apparatus. Like right now, our seats are cloth, which probably isn't the greatest thing because it's really hard to clean those up. So as we're talking more about purchasing fire trucks and stuff, you'll hear us talk about purchase seats, making sure that our seats are cleanable. Basically, one of the things is as soon as the fire is over, you use some wipes to clean your neck in areas where you have soot on them. You go back to the station and wash the clothes. Then you wash yourself as quickly as possible, and then make sure that you keep the turnout pants and everything out of your living area. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know if you saw the movie about the guy that was trapped on Mars by himself, and he goes and gets this nuclear generator and drives around to keep his vehicle warm. That's kind of what we're doing, keeping those turnouts inside where we live. We're kind of sleeping with the enemy there. So I think I jumped one slide, so I gotta go back. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we're going to go through them real quick anyway. So the last slide basically was what we need to do. We need to figure out how we're going to wash our equipment, how we're going to get the exhaust out of our stations, things along those lines. But basically, how do we measure up to those 11 things that were on those slides? So 1 through 4, which is how we do on scene. We're really doing good. Like we keep, the fire we just had on Oak or Redwood, depending on what address you go with. We did a great job there. Everybody followed those procedures. We're on air through the whole thing. Items 5 through 7, which was a lot of the procedural things, we need to work on our policy. The clean camp concept, we still need to work on. We're currently looking at how to best maximize the money we have to purchase a truck that we can make sure that we can clean. One of the things on that slide that I jumped past is making sure that we have physicals in place. We actually do that every year, so everybody gets a physical that does have cancer screening. We're looking at a new vendor that actually does more comprehensive cancer screening in conjunction with Rio Rico and Tubac. Essentially same price, but a lot more cancer screening. And then items 10 and 11 were more policy things, including anti-tobacco policies. One of the things that is, if you end up with cancer, especially like oral cancer, and you historically chewed tobacco or smoked, it's really hard to prove that it's job related. And so that's one of the things that it recommends, is having a no tobacco policy. So those are all things that are complex that we're going to have to talk about as we're setting policies, negotiating contracts, and things along those lines with the employees. But those are pictures of us at the fire that we just had. You can see that we're scrubbing the people off on scene, making sure we get the soot. We've even learned stuff since then. Like if you notice, the guys doing the scrubbing aren't necessarily wearing a whole lot of protective gear, and so they're getting splashed with the water that's coming off the turnouts. And then also we have them using a really short scrub brush that came with that bucket, because that bucket was donated to us as part of the cancer awareness thing statewide. And so we're looking for a telescoping brush now that we can fit in that bucket that lets them get a little bit further away so they're not getting splashed with the liquid. So those are the things that we're working on. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do that, you know, like I said, we'll come back and chat more with you guys about, but we are working on it, but there's a long way to go.
So, Mayor,
Go ahead.
so Chief, why is that guy in the t-shirt so close to the firefighter?
Yeah, that is a great question. That's what we came up with in the after action report. He needs a longer scrub brush. So that's our goal, is to get him further back with a longer scrub brush so he's not getting splashed with the...
I understand that, you already said that.
Yeah.
But why is he there right now? Is this a new research item that came up? Is this something new? Why isn't he away from that guy with that brush already?
Because this, I think, is the second time we used the bucket. This was the first after action thing that I've been to on a fire. So yes, common sense would say that he needs to be further away, and that's why they will be. It's just when we got the bucket, they gave us a short scrub brush, and then all of us sat around afterward and said, hey, we need a longer scrub brush.
Okay.
So
Chief, wouldn't it be also wise that the person that's scrubbing should have protective gear also? Instead
Yes.
of his regular uniform that he uses that? Because he's gonna go with those blues to the station and probably
Yeah.
stay with them all day long.
Yep, absolutely. So those people need to go through the same procedure of washing themselves and their equipment, having a second uniform. One of the challenges we have right now is we have one set of turnouts per employee. And so this fire just happened to be a crew change. So the outgoing crews could easily take their gear and throw them in the one washing machine that we do have at Station 2 and wash them and dry them. The crews that were on shift and may have to fight another fire soon, once you get the inside of turnouts wet and then you get them hot again, it's not good for the firefighters. So you got to kind of balance, how do we wash them with actually having them be able to clean them and then not have a negative impact to their health. So every 5-degree increase of the body temperature, and this is stats that are just more on this subject, the permeability of the skin goes up considerably. And so essentially we put them inside a set of turnouts that we wash that aren't dry. We put them in a fire, their skin temperature is going to go way up inside because we're essentially steaming them. And then they become even more susceptible to the chemicals. So one of the things that we're currently looking at is every piece of equipment has a life cycle. So turnouts have about a 10-year lifespan on them, and so a lot of them ours were about 7 years. So we're currently looking at what's our plan on replacing them and having a second set of gear if possible to make sure that we can do that. So like I said, there'll be a lot more conversations that I'll be coming forward with, because we are essentially auditing from apples to zebras, A to Z over there, everything that we do and what we have. And we'll come back and say, hey, here's where we're at, this is what we think, this is our plan, this is what we can solve quickly, this is what we're going to need help with, this is a phase-in process to do that, just like the SCBA's. You know, they're at the end of their life cycle in the budget, the amount of money that we have. Same thing we're doing with fire trucks and ambulances and everything right now. I've probably talked to 10, 15 vendors on almost every subject of this, trying to figure out the best way to spend that money and get the most current equipment for what we can do.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
Before that incident, did the firefighters go through some kind of training on how to do the scrubbing on firefighter?
So this was week 2 for me. So we're going to ask Chief Sanchez, do we do?
They go through a decom process. We usually use that one for hazardous materials, which now they're going from hazardous materials to treat it. Any seed that you grow that has any type of ideal age as a hazmat seed. So I agree with you 100% that the guy that was doing the scrubbing should have been in some type of protective gear, either a Tyvek suit or the person gear, the PPE that was supposed to wear. But yes, they do the scrubbing.
You know, protective overall.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then NCBA.
Let me-
Go ahead.
Do you agree with us? and none of us here are firefighters. I don't know crap about firefighting.
I am.
Okay, except one. So why didn't you tell us about this during the budget? Why didn't you say, I need some more of those uniforms? I can't endanger this. Oh, I can't endanger this firefighter and this, we need some brushes or whatever to do that.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump
Excuse
in.
me, excuse me. Let me finish.
Okay,
I don't want an answer from you. If I wanted an answer from you, I'd ask you.
okay.
I want an answer from him. He's been here longer than you have. I want his answer. So tell me what happened.
We do have some brushes. It's just that this one came around, like the chief mentioned, something that the whole state is giving out, handing out for prevention. They went to this one, we converted to the new bucket and new brushes, and we should have probably pulled them out prior. But we have just received them within the last 2 or 3 weeks, and we put them into service.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, Chief Sanchez, you've been here a long time.
Correct.
This mayor and council has been very responsive to public safety. We've got the new ambulance, we got you the new fire truck, and we asked you, do you need any other apparatuses? And I think you told us about the masks.
The whole SCDA.
The whole, well, whatever it's called. You needed that. So we left it up to you and all that. But anytime this comes up, I don't want to see this thing come up like this, that we're endangering our own employees. That's not what any one of us are here for. We want to make sure that they're safe. That's the purpose when I brought this up, because I read it in the Republic about the Mesa female. I don't want that to happen over here. So please come and tell us there's something. Go through the city manager so we become aware of these things. We want to protect our police officers. We want to protect our firefighters. Okay? And we don't need to be going, if you can't get a grant, you come to us so we can come up with the money. Please. We don't want to endanger any of our employees. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead, Chief.
So, not to argue with the council person, but,
I understand.
it's my responsibility, and that's why I was gonna comment on that. I've been here 5 weeks, but where we are today is my responsibility. It's not his. Like, granted, he was here before. The reason why you're seeing these pictures and we're telling you what we're telling you today is because this is a fast-moving process. There is tons of research. Like I said, this could be literally an 8-hour conversation. If you want documents on what the latest and greatest research is and who's doing what things, there's stuff out there that I can get you for that. But we're responding as fast as we can get the information and testing things out and looking at them. And so that's why we're showing you these pictures. That's us in action. Yes, we could do better. We know that. We had that conversation, and we're working on all of the standard operating guidelines and things that we need to do to be better. But the concept that no one's going to get cancer because we wash them is not a factual conclusion based on us scrubbing people. We will get someone with cancer. Statistically, because human beings get cancer and firefighters are human beings, whether it's work-related or not, there's certain presumptive ones that's in the Arizona revised statutes that are workers' comp no matter what. And then there are other ones that will eventually be decided through the workers' comp process. So we're going to need to do everything we can to minimize the risk. We can't eliminate the risk. And so that was pretty much my last slide. So if you have any questions.
Chief, thank you very much, and you have to understand Councilman Barona, because he was concerned about the cancer issue, you know, and he had mentioned this in previous times that we were talking about, especially future agenda items and stuff like that. But thank you for this information, and I know very well, being a firefighter in the past, I know very well that there's a lot more that we need to learn.
Yeah.
And I hope you can come back and you know, bring us some more information, and like Councilman Barona said, you know, we support you. We support you and the PD and public safety. We've always been very supportive of you, and we have to know these things, you know, when it comes to equipment.
Yeah, I guarantee you I won't be shot, and I guarantee you'll see me again.
Right.
Relatively quickly, because one of the things was brought up is ambulance billing, We had chatted about getting that on a study session. We still, later today, you're gonna potentially approve police cars on the next meeting. We don't have ours in yet because we're busy still researching vendors to try to get what we need, not necessarily what we want.
When you discuss the ambulance, it's gonna be Mr. Hanesian talking to you.
Okay. Is he a frequent flyer? Is that why?
He's the one that's been talking about the ambulance building since
Okay.
I've been in office, so.
Yeah, if you want to go down the ambulance building rabbit hole with me as well, I'm in there
But,
for it, so
yeah,
we'll go.
we'll discuss all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, number 3, presentation by Nogales Police Department on body camera policy. Before you get started, I'm gonna go get my body cam. I'll be right back.
Anybody needs a break? Maybe a second process.
Yeah, listen, can we take 5?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll go get a sandwich.
No, Marcy, no.
Chief.
Muy bien.
That's all everything right there. All right, all right. You put your money on Marcia or the chief in one
De la novia.
Oh, chief, se lo chingó.
Novia.
También, digo
Oh,
que
yeah. Oh, yeah. No va a
no
aguantar
brainer.
nada. No brainer.
This is the one that gets tased,
Oye,
right?
con tu y corbata.
She gets tased?
He can't outrun me.
I see this on YouTube.
Eso sí te digo, ahorita.
Say when, Letty.
Hey, she gets tased. She's asking.
You ready? Good, chief.
Thank you, Mr.
You're
Mayor.
on.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Massey, Mr. Kissinger. It's a very exciting time for us as we're winding down and we're trying to wrap all the loose ends as far as to the implementation of the body camera program. A big portion, or a larger portion of the implementation though, is the creation of policy. And we just need to ensure that the policy is solid, that it covers as many angles as possible for interpretation by the officer, by the political body as yourselves, and most importantly, by the community. So, with that said, Assistant Chief Jimenez is going to put on a presentation. He's going to show you a short video of an incident that happened a couple of months ago. I'm not sure where it happened.
Oklahoma.
Cashton, Ohio. Obviously, there's different laws over there that you need to sign a civil sanction. We don't have that in Arizona. However, I can't even imagine what would have happened if the officer wouldn't have had a body camera and trying to explain the incidents that happened and the lady's word against the officer. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant Chief.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council, city staff, and the community present. As the chief mentioned, I'm going to show you a short video on this incident. It's a 3-minute video, but a little background on this video. It started with an officer conducting a traffic stop on a truck that happened to have a broken tail lamp. As the chief mentioned, in the state of Arizona, we have civil citations and criminal citations, some that require signatures and some that don't. But in this instance, it requires a signature, and you're going to see the actions that the officer and the person that was stopped take during this incident. And we're not here to judge any actions taken by the officer or the person, but we're just here to see the invaluable tool that a body-worn camera can be. As the chief mentioned, how would this officer be able to explain what happened? And the on-officer video, as it's called, demonstrates and gives the officer's perspective of what happened and why he responded to this incident. So here we go. I'll give you a quick video, and it's a little interesting, kind of a little bit hilarious too, but like I said, we're not here to judge the officer or the people in this video.
Well, I did issue for a defective equipment. It's $80. You have till September 16th to take care of this. Get you to sign there with the X's.
So you don't even give a warning for this?
You've been driving around for 6 months like that.
Not truthful.
Well, I'm not going to give you a warning for something you've been driving for 6 months.
Well, I don't want to sign it because I don't want to pay $80.
You don't want to sign it?
No, because I don't think that I deserve to pay $80 for something that is fixable and I can fix it.
All right.
That's all you
Go
want.
ahead, step out of the car.
Why?
Because you're under arrest. Step out. Step out of the vehicle. Step out. Step out. I'm giving you a lawful order. Step out.
You be fair with me and I'll be fair with you.
Step out.
No.
You're under arrest.
No, I'm not.
I'm placing you under arrest. Step
You
out.
are foolish because you're under no arrest.
Do not take off.
Shut up and give me that and I'll sign it.
Step out.
No.
Go beyond that.
You want me
Step out.
You got the license.
Get out of the car! 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 Get out of the will not. You're gonna get it again. Do you realize you just got yourself in a whole lot more trouble?
What?
For running?
Oh, I didn't run. I told you you weren't going to arrest me. I pulled in here thinking that you would not.
Hurt?
Yeah, I'm hurt.
What hurts?
Everything.
I got EMS and
You got a what on the leg?
I got an ambulance on the way to check you out.
Ambulance? I don't need an ambulance.
Well, you got case, so they gotta check you out.
So once again, like I said, we're not here to judge the actions of the officer, or in this case, this elderly lady, but it shows the transparency and she mentioned the onboard video that the officer had on him demonstrates what he encountered, his perspective, and the actions he took. As mentioned, it would have been pretty hard to explain to his supervisors, the city, or the department he represents. I just tased a somewhat elderly female for not signing a ticket. And this video shows exactly what happened, and it's hard to argue the actions at that point. We're not going to go into the policy that we drafted, and it's 11 pages that this policy encompasses, and it covers just about every aspect of the body-worn camera program that we have. At the end of the presentation, I'll go ahead and hand out a copy of this policy to whoever wants a copy. But I'm going to go down the policy itself. Like I mentioned, it's 11 pages, and I'm not going to read everything verbatim, but I'm going to highlight some areas that are probably of interest. If you do have a question in a particular policy or in the program, we can go to that section and discuss it. The one area I am going to read verbatim is basically the purpose and scope and the policy behind this. So purpose and scope, the policy provides guidelines for the use of portable body-worn cameras, which are known as BWCs. The Nogales Police Department, NPD, is committed to the belief that on-officer video is an important and valuable tool for law enforcement. On-officer video is essential audio-video documentation of an officer, of a police officer's investigative and enforcement activities from the perspective, and that's an important understanding of that, of the officer's person. The use of the on-officer video is expected to result in greater transparency, more effective prosecutions, and improved protection against false allegations of excessive use of force, misconduct, or racial profiling. Audio or video recording of investigations or enforcement actions are evidence and subject to the rules of disclosure. It is the best interest of the justice that the department regulates and controls all forms of evidence collection and storage. Officers shall utilize this device in accordance with the provisions in this policy to maximize the effectiveness of the audio-video documentation to achieve operational objectives and to ensure evidence integrity. I highlight this part because I know it's a question a lot of people will have when it comes to body-worn cameras. All officers who are authorized to use the body-worn camera system will be required to successfully complete an approved course of instruction on the use of the body-worn camera. And I'll go a little bit further with the policy itself as it's defined. It is the policy of the Nogales Police Department to use the portable body-worn camera technology to fulfill the department's mission and to ensure that these systems are used securely and efficiently. All uniformed officers assigned to field duties shall use the department-provided body-worn camera system in accordance with this policy.
So if I may, Mayor,
Go ahead.
Commander, the highlighted portion is not in our policy here. Is there a reason for that? Did you just add this?
I just added that to bring it to the attention with this presentation. I'll provide you with a copy, and unfortunately this copy is probably similar to what you have.
So that's going to be added to this policy? Because it's not on our policy.
The highlighted area.
The highlight is not here.
I wonder ahead.
Mr. Mayor?
Go
So,
ahead.
Chief, I can help you out. The policy that was submitted to me to be included in this item was provided to mayor and council. Obviously, the policy's been updated or changed since
Correct.
then.
It's been revised.
So
since-
I'm gonna need to get you all a fresh one. I wasn't aware, I apologize, I wasn't aware that they had changed it for the
Mr.
presentation.
Kissinger, if I may, I apologize for the inconvenience, but what happened is that we've been working very close with Mr. Massey, and we've been adding some more stuff that we feel that has to be integrated into the policy to make sure that it is solid. So
I don't have any dispute with that.
So this is what they're gonna get, right?
I can pass this out right now. It just doesn't have the yellow highlighting, but it
Well,
has.
we got it right here, which you have there.
So as soon as we're done with the presentation, we'll make sure that Mr. Kissinger gets us the correct copy.
We'll all get the
Just wanna make
Is
sure.
that the updated one?
Correct.
Okay, let me have one of
I'll
those.
go ahead and pass it
I
out.
like to have a hard copy.
This is the updated one?
That's correct. But it just happens to be in this hard copy form.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
And as we go down past the purpose of the policy, we go into definitions, and it highlights the agency administrator, the end user, which is actually the person that's going to be wearing the body-worn camera. Some technical terms is the ETM is where actually the body-worn camera is mounted and stored and charged, and the video itself is uploaded to the system. Describes what we include in the body-worn camera, which is media or data. Includes all photos that, well, let me explain a little bit about the camera itself. Not only does it take video, but it can also capture photos from that video.
Could you, Commander Mayor,
Go ahead.
would you tell me about the buffering of the camera?
As far as,
Let's say somebody shoots. Can the technology take it back and buffer and pick that up?
yes, the camera has technology where it actually goes back 30 seconds if it hears a bullet or a shooting or a fire, a weapon going off, or actually in the car itself when the siren is turned on, the lights, it actually begins recording 30 seconds prior. But the officers are also been instructed that when they do respond to an incident where it involves lights and siren response, they don't turn it on, but it actually does that 30-second retreat, so it goes back. So if the body camera detects a gunshot and the camera itself wasn't activated at the time, so let's say it just happens abruptly, the camera can go back 30 seconds to capture the video and continue from there on.
That's amazing. I don't know how that is done, but I think it provides a lot of safety for the city that that technology is able to do that.
Correct.
I was just amazed.
I think phones can do it too, but they don't tell us.
Well, that's another thing.
We'll go down the policies, and if there's something in particular that you want to talk in detail with each policy, we'll go into that. Because like I said, it is lengthy and it goes into great detail. So we have general procedures, which indicates when the officer will, how it will be utilized and when it will not be utilized. We have officers' responsibility, and how they should take care of the camera, and how they do this docking, the loading, the positioning on the uniform. You know, the chief has chosen to select a camera that will be worn on the body, on the uniform itself, that will capture the basically below the chin view of the officer's perspective. There is other options that may come into play later where they might be mounted somewhere differently on the body, but at this point, that's the, if I'm not mistaken, that's the camera going forward at this time.
You know, Commander, Mayor,
Go ahead.
you know, the administrative part of it, you know, that's between you guys here. But what I'm interested in this policy is just what happens with recordings of privacy. I was reading through the policy and it says, they use an example if if the officer goes in with a camera into the bathroom and the camera goes off, he has to go through a procedure to get it deleted.
Correct. First of all, they shouldn't be activating or turning on the camera in areas that privacy is expected. Bathrooms, locker rooms, in some cases the hospital, emergency rooms, doctors. And let's say they do have it on for a purpose that is appropriate, then obviously it's used for evidence. But if that's not appropriate, what the first thing the officer needs to do is say, supervisor, I made a mistake. I had my body camera on and we walked into the emergency room and I actually recorded some video that shouldn't have happened. Then the supervisor contacts our program coordinator who goes and they review the video and actually determine if it doesn't have any evidentiary value, the video is removed and discarded for that purpose.
Do the officers feel comfortable with the body cameras? Is there any concerns that have been raised by the officers?
I can refer that to the chief.
Especially what happens, what I see on TV all the time, when the body camera in a situation should be on, and it's noticed that the officer turned off the camera.
There's instances where the camera might be turned off at some point in time during the investigation at the conclusion, more than likely. However, anytime that camera is turned off, there has to be justification and documentation as far as to why. And more than likely, there's going to be more than one officer involved in that situation, so the other body camera or the other two body cameras are going to be catching that same scenario. So if it's done intentionally, obviously the other two officers it's going to capture whatever happened that the officer's turning off for a reason or whatever the case might be. There's some safety issues, or not safety issues, measures. Thank you. Safety measures that we're taking. One of them is it's called performance.
Axon performance. And that's where the supervisor or management or the body worn camera coordinator can go and see an officer's activity on the camera. So let's say their responsibility is to come on duty, put on the camera, and have it ready for activation depending on what situations they face. And if we see that for some reason their activity is not in conjunction with what they're encountering or what other officers are doing, then the supervisor and or the people mentioned can go into Axon performance and determine why this officer is not utilizing the body camera to its fullest potential, or if there's other reasons behind it. So it's kind of like a quality assurance for the camera itself that it enforces the policy that the officer has to follow and make sure if it isn't followed that we detect that activity or lack thereof better.
And all those measures that you take, Councilman, are going to be covered during the training before the initial program is put out. So everybody has to go through that training before they're issued that camera. And we're going to keep close tabs as far as to making sure that they're abiding by policy. Those cameras are turned on and turned off whenever they have to. And that's the reason why this is so important.
Mayor, I've gone over it like all of you have. The only thing I was concerned is how the officers are reacting to it, and I just wanted to make sure that there's the policy addressed. If anybody turns off the camera intentionally, that's addressed in there, because I've seen that in the news, that officers have turned it off intentionally. And if there's anything that has to do with the camera catching something that would embarrass somebody else in the privacy of something, that there's protocol that can be taken out.
Absolutely. And we're trying to make sure that this is not just done by I accidentally recorded something that I shouldn't, and it's automatically recorded where something that officer misconduct or something. So if you look at 450.71.
What page are you on, Chief?
I'm at page 6.
Okay.
Deletion of unintentional recording. The last sentence there, it says the actual deletion requires two-party authorization. One of those parties will be the chief or designee, and the other will be an agency administrator. In this case, it will be Lieutenant Thompson.
So there's protocols there that nobody can get into the system and just erase something.
No, sir.
One question, well, actually, because there's a couple, but is
have you done a poll in the department? Have you talked to the officers, or it's just a handful of them? I mean, did you poll everybody in the department
I would not
to
call
see
it-
how they feel, the pros and cons?
I would not call it a poll. I know that the chief has had conversations as myself and other members of the staff, that the body worn camera is being considered and in this case being implemented. And at first, you know, there's the change that they're kind of uneasy with, but when you demonstrate the basically saving their career that they can face with having the body worn camera, they tend to understand that it's something that's there for their safety, not only theirs, but also the department's and cities.
But it can also be used for disciplinary action too.
Correct.
Okay,
Their actions
so,
that were
so,
taken were not justified.
you know, you know, this is me speaking, I'm not talking for the council. I would recommend you have the department, everybody, they need to, not just a handful. You know, I would recommend you talk to all the officers, see how they feel about it. You know, I think that would be the best thing, Chief, because you want to have transparency on this camera issue. And of course, you want to have accountability on it, but I mean, you know, sometimes an officer thinks he's doing a good job, but then the camera can say, you're not doing a good job. And then be disciplined for something that he did, or he was too aggressive, or like that video you showed me. I would never have done that as an officer. Never would I have done that. I would have worked it out with that person. Worked it out con palabras, and believe me, she would have signed the ticket. Never would have gone to all those extremes. I mean, I know the camera has probably saved the police officer because she did flee, but she didn't have to flee. Okay, and a good officer can, with respect to an elderly person like that, could convince that person to sign the citation. You know, and that's what I'm saying. You know, I understand how important it is for cameras, because I've watched on television how cameras have really had the evidence needed for court, you know, for the court issues, but I've also seen cameras that there was a shooting and the camera was turned off. For what reason? I don't know, but it was turned off. So I don't know if the officer was disciplined or not, but there's pros and cons, and I don't know about the cons. So I'm talking about myself. I honestly believe that I think the whole department should be, you know, I'm not talking for any officer or anybody, but this is the way I think it should be.
Mr. Mayor, and I've been talking to the majority of the officers, and as a matter of fact, we had to put a directive out because a lot of officers felt vulnerable to the complaints of citizens to the point that they were using their own recording devices to protect themselves. So we had to put a directive saying you will not use any device that is not issued by the Nogales Police Department, not operated by the Nogales Police Department. So the majority of the officers are looking forward to the camera because it provides transparency, it protects them, it protects the organization, and obviously it protects the community as a whole. Litigation-wise, I mean, that's a given. It's something that's for the protection of the entire community, but mainly for the officer in cases like this. And you're right, and that's the reason the assistant chief gave a disclaimer that we're not here to judge the actions of the officer, because I wouldn't do that either, and that's not the culture that we have at the Nogales Police Department. However, we just wanted to make sure that that's a perfect example of how do you explain or how do you document something like that, and where there's nobody else involved. When you mentioned that there's a shooting and the officer didn't turn the camera on, that's the reason we put that safeguard that if there's a shot that the camera hears, that camera is automatically going to turn on and it's going to go for 30 seconds back. So it's not up to the officer if it's going to be turned on or not. As far as to making sure or I guess auditing these videos for disciplinary measures, that's not going to happen unless there's an issue that comes up. And to the point that even on the traffic complaint, we have the ability, as far as to myself and all the administrators and maybe the sergeant, depending on what we come up with, confirm or deny the allegations that this person is making. But just like any other complaint, we need to make sure that they know that if it's a complaint that's not true, they're gonna be looking at consequences.
Yes.
So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I understand, Chief. You know, it's just, this is the way I feel, you know, it's just, if I was in your position, I would make sure that the whole department is behind this. And if somebody isn't behind it, ask why. You know, talk to them. These are your officers. You have 50 of them, you know, and I don't know if all 50 will wear the cameras. You're not gonna wear them, you're not gonna wear them. You know, just the patrol officers will be wearing them. So, you know, detectives are gonna wear them, you know, so it's, you know, it's only the patrol officers that you would have to talk to and, you know, just get a feel for it. I mean, I don't know if you've done it or not, Chief, you know, I don't know if you've done it, but I'm just saying.
I have not, Mayor, and I feel comfortable with moving forward with this. The feedback that I've gotten from certain officers is that they don't want the body camera, not because of the consequences that the body camera brings, but they think that we could have used those $82,000 or $81,000 on raises or anything else that's intrinsic motivation. But I think we need to move forward with a 21st century and move forward with technology. As a matter of fact, we're looking at purchases of a drone through the county attorney's office for investigation purposes and stuff like that. So we're moving forward.
No, I understand. Councilman, did you want to say something, Councilman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, one of the things that's going on, and I'm kind of glad that it happened, is where you updated the policy. I don't think that we're cornered specifically on this. That we know what we can update it, we can make it better, we can take off certain things, and that's going to be up to you to keep us informed on that, so that you have a good working document there. You know, and basically I had those concerns as well, Mayor, the disciplinary actions, and we don't necessarily want to get into your department, but we should know as well on what actions are being taken in case something does come up. We might be in agreement with that disciplinary action that was taken upon the officer or not. So it does affect us along the process, I think, to some degree. Then, of course, I'm thinking of the officers and their job performance as far as being nervous. But I think that's going to be attributed to the training. The more training they get, the more comfortable they are using the body camera. It's going to be a whole lot better for them, because obviously some more than others will be nervous in having the camera there, where they're going to be judging themselves on their performance, and that was brought up by the mayor, of course, and the consequences. But I know as a body and as a mayor, we want to be supportive with your department, and I feel that we're all for the body camera. We just want to make sure that along the process we're doing the right thing, and that again will come back to you to keep us informed on what's going on. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
This policy in itself is a live document, so it can be there's stuff that can be added, deleted, depending on best practices that change as we go along. So I mean that's not a done deal.
Yeah.
Change and added or deleted, whatever needs to be.
I agree.
Thank you, Chief.
I agree, Chief.
You need to go on the podium. Okay.
Mayor.
Go ahead.
Councilman Hennessy-Ansberg.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, there was a comment made, I think, at the retreat there, where we were talking about the camera and how much it would cost to support that camera and maintain it over a year or 2 years or 3 year period. And that was a big question mark as to what it would be. We're talking about $80-some-odd thousand, but have you figured out what it would cost to support that camera for a 3 year period?
Actually, we got a quote for a 5 year period. I don't have it with me right now, but I want to say it's 400 and
So
502 total, and 165,000, 165,000 the first year, 85,000 every year. That does not include the 82,500 DOJ match and the $91,000.
What was this again?
I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, it's going.
So, it is right now, and we're still negotiating the actual final price. It is at 502,000 right now for the total 5 years. The 502
So
Department of-
originally we started with 82.
I'm sorry?
To purchase. To purchase, it's 82,000.
No, actually, that was the matching grant we got from the Department of Justice. So out of the 502,000, 82,500 of that would be shaved off at the top. So if anybody's handy with a calculator, let me know what the
We're talking about roughly $450,000.
Correct.
Would be the city's.
for
over a
5 years.
period.
So the first year it would be 165,000. That's 82,500 from us, 82,500 from the grant. And then roughly 80,000, 82,000 every year after. There's a couple things we're still trying to sort out, so we may be a little bit under 80,000, and that's what we're hoping out to the last conversation we had yesterday, day before. So we are actively trying to get those really good discounts.
But is there any grants afterwards to support that?
We would have to look afterwards. Of course, we would. There's a lot of pots we could actually go into. I know Department of Justice may offer something depending on the success, but that's something that we have to venture after we. So to talk about that right now is a little bit premature, but it is in the light.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. I am very supportive of this project. I think it's good for our community. I think we could have seen, when we had that unfortunate case with the police officer last year, we could have seen exactly what was happening, how it happened. But I am very, very supportive of this, and the costs were told to us up front from the inception of this and the grant, and we don't want to go turn down that grant, because if it wasn't for the grant, it wouldn't be affordable for us.
Actually, that was a competitive grant that I think there's over 70 agencies that applied nationwide, and we were one of two that it was granted that was 82,500. We're championing something that's never been done in a southern Arizona community. When I took over, there's three things that I want Nogales Police Department to be known for. One of them is innovation, the other one is technology, and the third one is community policing. And with the transparency that this camera is bringing, I think it's all wrapped into one, and we're moving forward with the outreach program and making sure that we're serving the community that we should.
Okay, Mayor, just to close this up now,
Yes.
I just want to hear the recommendation of Mr. Massey. Is everything in order? And Mr. Kissinger, I want to hear from them now, what they feel.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I also look forward to seeing how the body camera affects our prosecutions. I think it'll be very positive. I have looked at this policy, and obviously with the reservation that as everything comes to pass, we can update it with more learned experience. So I think also I share Councilman Verona's positive viewpoint on that this is the cutting edge of where we need to go with community policing, and so yeah, I'm supportive as well.
Mayor, yes, I'm also supportive of the policy. I did read the policy that the chief put forward, and I think it's a good policy. And like all policies, when as we go forward, if we find any deficiencies in the policies or adjustments that need to be made, we'll definitely make those happen.
I love this teamwork. This is great.
I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. And then just one other thing, Chief, you have another presentation to give, and we're getting close to the 6.
We're gonna go through it as fast as we can.
Okay, can we jump to that one now?
But in closing, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Members of the council, I promise transparency to the community, to our own officers, and obviously to you guys with the body camera.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
Just
Yes,
one
go
more
ahead.
point, and this is not for or minus, this is just a question. Also with the retreat, I think we discussed, Chief, I think you were the one that brought it up. Were there, in how many circumstances was there a question where the cameras would have made a difference? And I think you said that, as far as you know, there was one, in one circumstance, that would have made a difference? I think the question was, would it have made a difference in the last 3 years, let's say, when they were prosecuting a case or not prosecuting a case, where the camera would have made a difference?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's certain cases, there's several cases that could have made a difference, obviously, from interviews to statements to.
Would you say 5 or 10 or 20 or one case?
It's hard to say, but I would venture to say it's more than 10. Even when you get there and you see a crime scene, obviously there's your body cameras recording everything as it is. So it's taking real-time data as far as to what's going on and you know the anguish that victims are going through and stuff like that. But all that can be redacted for privacy purposes, right?
So
but
Chief,
it still remains.
Probably the right answer would be that the body camera video could be of value to you in every case.
Absolutely.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Once again, thank you. We're going to do a quick presentation on what we call now active danger awareness training. It was formerly known as the, across the nation and across actually the globe was active shooter incidents, but we transitioned to what's now are calling it active danger awareness training because obviously it doesn't only involve guns, it now involves knives, cars, bombs and stuff. We currently have 4 instructors and 2 instructors here, and I'm going to pass it over to one of the instructors here, Corporal Luis Andrade. The instructor here further is Detective Jonathan Molera, and our 3rd instructor, or 4th I should say, is not present. He had to take care of a personal matter, is Corporal Oscar Mesta. And there's going to be a brief overview of what our program entails.
Good afternoon, Council. Detective Andrade, Nogales Police Department. We've added this new program. We're certified officers from the Nogales Police Department. We're certified instructors for ALERT, which is Advanced Law Enforcement Response or Rapid Response Training, which that entails basically what we're trying to cover is run, hide, fight in a situation, a critical situation, which we got trained, and it took us about maybe a week in training in that ALERT. The other one that we did was ALICE, which is alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and escape. And that's the one that we use where it's avoid, deny, and defend. That's one of the trainings that we are now using, and we trained a lot of the people here from the city of Nogales, including Mr. Kitzinger. And tell me if I'm wrong, one of those trainings that we did was awesome. A lot of the people that came here learned a lot that they can not only use at work, but also out in the community, and that's what we're trying to tie everything down here. This is the training that they're transitioning to. It was active danger, or it's active danger awareness training due to the ever-changing dangers that have been encountered in these events. Okay? The purpose of this new change, or the active danger awareness, like A Chief said, is to bring awareness and discuss strategies that can be applied when the public is confronted with active danger incidents. And like you said, it doesn't mean that it's an individual with a handgun or a machine gun or whatever type of weapon. It could be a knife, it could be a car, it could be anything that could help us out in the community. We've discussed these signs and methods to consider the incident of what is ever occurring here, because everything's evolving now. There's a lot of things that are being done not good and perceived bad, but the thing is in this presentation that we look back in our tragedies and we learn from these lessons and we analyze all these incidents to make a better community aware of what's going on and how they can react in a special situation that they may encounter. Since each active danger incident is different and unique, participants will learn the different techniques, strategies that may require in a quick decision making. Okay? Like I said, not necessarily just a car, a gun, anything, anywhere, Walmart, at work, even if you're going across the line, there's things that you can do to survive a critical incident. Currently, due to a lot of graphic videos that we have to show so that we can make an impact to our community or the individuals that we're teaching, we only teach it to adults, and, so that they are aware. We don't want to get involved yet with small kids or children under the 18, which are not considered adults. We've taught this program to over 600 participants, including the whole city of Nogales. Okay, I know there's a lot of new employees, and we're trying to get those on board so that they're involved with this training. This training with ADA and Nogales PD instructors include a lot of businesses and government entities, such as the Unisource Energy Services, the Mariposa Clinic, Liberty Waters. We've even gotten out of the county and gotten some of the produces involved. Okay, you may think, why produce? Because a lot of the are get upset because their loads aren't ready, and they might come back with a weapon, knife, or something like that, and they're able to kind of mellow everything down or avoid a critical incident or situation. The other thing is Pacific Brokerage Boys and Girls Club. We had all the staff there. Sunshine School, City of Nogales, Santa Cruz County Courts and Probation. Like I said, the Nogales Police Department. And if you guys want to see something, it's in the Nogales International. They put out a real nice article on a presentation that we did on the active shooter. Like I said, the last one that we did was from the Nogales Police Department, Citizens Police Academy. Those were adults that really loved that presentation because we came in, I don't know if anybody else was involved, but we came in shooting. John, I see you laughing because you remember that incident, correct? We came in shooting, and I asked them, what's happening? Nobody had an idea of what to do or how to react, and through these trainings, people got ideas of how they can survive a critical incident. One of the, like I said, the other things that we taught as the Mariposa Clinic, City of Nogales, Unisource, those are some of the logos that we put up so you guys know that it's not just here, it's all in the community of Nogales. And why am I saying this? Because the purpose of ADAT, okay, it is the goal of the Nogales Police Department to provide current and innovative training that is beneficial for the community. That's why we're here, for the community, not just us, but the community, so that we can help everybody, not just us. Okay? And it's the department's mission that ties everything together, the mission and our vision. Okay? And like it says, our mission and statement is that the mission of the Nogales Police Department is to enhance the quality of life in our city of partnership with our community. And that's what we want, the community to know what to do just in case something does arise. That we will do this by upholding the constitutional rights, enforcing the laws, and preventing peace, or preserving, preserving. Okay. I'm kind of nervous because I got all my breath here. So preserving the peace and providing a safe environment. And like our vision statement says, the Nogales Police Department wants to establish excellence in when we're training the community. My own principal was here too.
Are you doing anything with Nogales Unified School District?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we just had a conversation.
I can answer that. Actually, this morning we did have a conversation, or I did, with school resource officer Ray De La Osa, and he showed some interest that the school has reached out to him, in this particular Nogales High School, that he's going to be doing a presentation on September 23rd at the NUSD1 meeting, governing board meeting, and we're going to present or offer, a better way of putting it, to the board and Mr. Bava that the Nogales Police Department is committed to training all their staff, which includes Nogales High School and any other staff that Mr. Bava recognizes, whether it be other schools or the administration building, and give them this awareness training and hopefully transition into more awareness training for the actual student body that involves interaction with the police department's response to these incidents. So we're working on that, and hopefully in the next year or so we can cover all the staff of the schools and administration, and we have at least something in place in case hopefully nothing ever happens.
Are you planning on doing anything with the school district, like you had that joint venture with the United States Border Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, DPS, yourselves?
Correct. we discussed that and we learned some lessons from that, and one of the thing is we want to minimize the exposure that the actual students see how we respond and also how the school responds to incidents. And I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a lockdown or an evacuation due to the incident that's occurring, and the students are told to go to a certain area. But we've also learned that the students themselves might be the shooters, so they know the plan in place already. So we have to, that's one of the lessons and trends that we're learning, that we need to modify our approach and responses, because if I'm a student that wants to do harm to other students, I already know where I can go to if I'm going to be doing something nearby there. So we are planning something like that, but we're modifying it from lessons learned, best practices.
Your presentation is at the request of Mr. Rojas. He wanted some more information.
Yes, sir. Councilman.
And one of the things we're trying to do here, and we'd like to take those out, is to, in the near future, here in the next couple of months, we're going to put it out to the public, maybe have it in here one night a week, or maybe quarterly or whatever, or even on a Saturday. So if residents don't work for a company that we service, they can come to us and we'll gladly provide that training.
Councilman, do you have anything to say, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. No, the only thing that I want to say is that I'm glad that you're coordinating the Nogales Police Department, that you're showcasing the department, because it's a outstanding department, and I'm glad that you're working with the school. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting yesterday, is that correct, Clerk Varona?
Yes, we did.
We had a meeting yesterday, and Superintendent Barra did mention about the 23rd, and I'm glad that you're going to be part of it. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor.
Great job, guys. Thank you. Is there anything else?
Unless you guys have any other questions, I know there's more produce there that want our training, so we're really anxious to get more training out there to the community.
Are you gonna give hot dogs and stuff like that?
That's on you, Mayor. I'll be there.
Mayor, just one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you guys announcing it, or how do people find out about it?
Currently, it's more like word of mouth. And we've gone out to the more like governmental agencies, Santa Cruz County. We've gone out to the medical profession, the schools. But in the private sector, it's been more word of mouth. I think the Nogales Police Department is doing this. Why don't you reach out to them and then coordinate and then present it. But like the Chief mentioned, we're going to move forward with something more detailing the actual, just the regular citizen that doesn't work for one of these entities and is interested in this training.
Yeah, I found out through one of actually Pacific Brokerage that you guys had done it, and they were really amazed at everything that took place. But let's say if you go to like the Produce Association and stuff like that, I know you might be overwhelmed with people wanting it, but do you guys charge for it, or is there something that you guys are doing for the community at a service?
No, there is no charge to training, and like I said, we're learning how we can move forward, and as the Chief mentioned, we're going to present it to citizens that don't work, but yeah, I'll take them into consideration to go to these entities, like the Produce Association or civic groups, and present this and see if they're interested in word of mouth spreads to other places.
Thank you.
Members of the City Council, we're going to have to adjourn this meeting. All right? This meeting's adjourned. Whenever you're ready for the regular session.